This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who care. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back. I almost forgot to unmute myself there. Welcome back to the Special Chronicles show. My name is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and a Southern Tribal International Global Messenger with Special Olympics. And I'm excited to, as we, this is the, this release, the second week in January 2022, excited to continue our road to the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games. And this week, excited to welcome our guest this week. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome the President and CEO of the 2022 USA Games, Joe. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to share some time to talk to you and your audience about the 2022 USA Games. Yeah,
absolutely. And once again, for our listeners, this is episode 462, specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe to this podcast and all the other podcasts on this network, and for links to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, our newsletter. All that. And we first met back in August, right?
Yes.
When I gave a speech at the CEO conference.
That's correct. And you were so inspiring. You were so humble. Your story just kind of warmed my heart and just reminded me why I've joined this great movement, and so happy to be part of Special Olympics.
Thank you. Yeah, it was such an honor to speak at that conference. And let's for any new listeners, let's begin with having you introduce yourself and tell us how you came to become involved in the Special Olympics movement, and a little bit about your backstory.
Sure. Well, thank you. I mean, it all starts back. I'm from New York. I was born and raised in New York, and after college, I joined IBM, and I spent about 33 years with them, and then I semi-retired. But for really the last dozen years, I've been volunteering and working with Special Olympic athletes here in the state of Florida. And then I was lucky enough 4 years ago to be on the committee that helped put together a bid to bring the games for the first time in 50 years to the state of Florida. And so it's been a fun ride, and it's been very rewarding for me.
Awesome. So we'll get into a little bit more about that the early days of how Florida came to host the upcoming USA Games. But first, let's maybe take a listen back to a little bit more of your backstory and share with us a little bit more about how you came to Special Olympics. Is there an athlete that introduced you to the movement, or a volunteer or coach?
Right. So I always get that question because, often people who volunteer at Special Olympics have a family member or a friend. Mm-hmm. In my case, it was none of the above. It would just happen to be my neighbor was volunteering with Special Olympics, and we were just sitting together one day outside, enjoying the beautiful warm weather down here in Florida. And we talked about, as giving back to society and doing something other than working and having a career. And so he inspired me. And so I started volunteering, and I was just doing, traditional volunteer roles in Special Olympics. And then I was lucky enough to get selected to become a board member for the Special Olympics State of Florida board, and then I became the treasurer. So I just kind of got more and more involved, and the more involved I got, the more I wanted to become involved.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm sure once you started got involved, the joy and the love of that all of us athletes bring have probably just really got in you and moved you to. Do you want to speak to that and how us athletes have really helped to kind of keep you involved in this movement?
Yeah. So it's exactly what you said, Daniel. It just the more time I spent with Special Olympic athletes and their families, especially their families, were very moving to me. Just listening to family members talk about how Special Olympics has changed the whole family dynamics, not only for the athlete, but for the rest of the families and friends, and just a huge impact it can have on our athletes' lives. And so as I heard those messages, I got more involved, and I got to see it, and I got to feel it. And the more I felt it, the more I became inspired, the more I wanted to do. And so it's just been for me, it's not a question of giving. I've just been receiving. I've given a bunch of time, but that's not the payback. It's helped really kind of mold me to be a better person. My dad was involved in public service, and so I think he set that example for me at an early stage of giving back. And as I say, it's not really giving back; it's receiving. Awesome.
Yeah, I love what you said and how it motivated you to become a better person. So kind of piggybacking off of that, how has your life experiences before you got involved in this movement shaped and then as you got more involved to now becoming the president and CEO of the upcoming 2022 USA Games, how has all that shaped the person you are today, and how has all of from your pre-involvement and your current involvement helped to shape the person that you are today?
Yeah, that's great, and that's it's really interesting because as I was working in corporate life, it was just a question of working long hours and making money enough to provide for my family, and that's all I thought about. And after Special Olympics, it got me just digging in deeper. What do I want for myself? What do I want for my life? What do I want the rest of my life to be like? And how can I, taking the skills that I developed over the decades, to make to kind of try to make Special Olympic, to make the games better than they've ever been, and to see how many lives the games can impact, right? And so that's there's no secret sauce other than by giving, receiving, as I said, but it's just been so rewarding.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead in just a few moments, take a quick break, because if it wasn't for our supporters, we wouldn't be able to be behind the microphone and be talking today. But when we come back from the break, we'll get into talking all about the upcoming USA Games and how you came to become the CEO after the break. You're listening to the Special Chronicles show. Our guest is the president and CEO, Joe, and we'll be back right here on specialchronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. Our guest is the president and CEO of the Special Olympics 2022 USA Games, Joe. And let's now get into how Florida became to become the and how Orlando came to be the whole city. Can you take us back to the early days?
Sure. Yeah. So back 4 years ago or so, we were asked to consider making a bid for the games, and despite having either the second or third largest Special Olympics program here in the United States, we had never hosted the games before, and so we thought it would be a great opportunity. So I joined the committee. I ended up running the committee. We put in the bid. We competed against a few other places. And back in May of 2018, we were awarded the games, and we had a big announcement, and we had a flyover, of the Navy squadron, and we had just a big old event to celebrate the success of Orlando, being able to host, and so we've been planning ever since.
Awesome. So now, get into maybe talking a little bit about your job as president and CEO, and tell us a little bit about how you came to be the CEO of these USA Games, and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to be selected to lead this group back around that same time frame in 2018. And so my role is really to do all the planning for the games. So that's everything from fundraising, which we spent the first couple of years on, because Daniel, I think as you and many of your listeners know, we pay for everything for the athletes once they arrive here: their food, their transportation, their housing, all the sporting events, all the entertainment. In some cases, we're actually helping the athletes get to come to the games. In some cases, we're actually even helping with uniforms and scholarships. So we've got, fundraising is a big piece of it. The rest of my job is preparing for the games, the execution of the games, all the sporting events, all the opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies. So there's lots. We've got about 125 different projects that we're running to ensure that the games are truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience for our athletes.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit more about the sports that are going to be offered during these USA Games. And
right. So we're excited for a bunch of reasons. First of all, we're going to have 20 sports, which is about 50% more sports than any prior games. In Seattle, they had 14 sports. So one of the things we thought would be great is this expand, the number of sports to allow more athletes to attend. We're excited to come. I got to remind everybody of the dates. June 5th through June 12th of 2022 is when we're going to be hosting the games. We're just, excited. We thought from a sports perspective, the more sports we offer, the more athletes can come. And we're doing some really cool things, Daniel. We're going to have, for the first time ever, because we're in Florida, surfing. So we're going to have a surfing competition. We've got, we were lucky enough, we were going to go out to the beach, but we have our friends at Disney actually have a very, very large wave pool, and they can set waves up to 9 feet tall. So with guaranteed waves. So we're going to have guaranteed waves for surfing. We're going to do a triathlon, which has been done before, but not recently. And we're going to have I think last I looked, over 40 athletes participating in triathlon. We're super excited. We're also excited that one of those athletes is going to be Chris Nikic, who's obviously a Florida native son, and these days is just doing tremendous things, and so he'll be competing in our triathlon.
Awesome. Tell us, and I for those of you listening to the audio podcast, go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter Live, and I put on the screen the dates, June 5th through the 12th, 2022. So tell us now a little bit more about what you and your team are doing to prepare for the games. I'm sure that there's a lot with offering 20 sports and offering more sports than that were offered in Seattle. There's a lot that goes into with each all the different venues, and then all the athletes coming, and coaches and volunteers and sponsors. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Right. Well, so it all starts with building a good team, and we're fortunate enough. We have about 25 people here who are working full time. We have over 10,000 volunteer positions, doing 22,000 volunteer shifts that will help us execute the game. But what we're doing right now, Daniel, and I just got out of a meeting, and I'm heading into a meeting after this, where we're looking at each event, what needs to be done, how are we going to get it done, but how are we going to make it fun and exciting and worthwhile for not only our athletes, our partners, families, fans, the media. And so we everything we do, though, starts and finishes with the athlete. And hopefully we'll spend some more time talking about in this podcast about how we're going to incorporate, and how we have incorporated, the athletes into the end-to-end planning of the games. But basically, it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of testing, and it's building good support teams with good partners that are going to help us do the games.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll get into a little bit more about the athlete leadership and involvement with the games in the next segment, but wanted to briefly kind of, since you just mentioned that there's going to be a lot of us athletes involved in the games. I think I understand that the logo for the games, which people are watching the video of this episode, they see either in your background or in my background the logo. And I think I read somewhere that was designed by some athletes.
Yes, it was. So what happened? We've actually made a little video out of it, but we hired a professional design company to design the logo. Same group that did the logo for Seattle, and we love the Seattle logo. So we hired them, and basically we spent a couple months with them, and they donated all their time, tens of thousands of dollars worth of time. Probably about 15 professionals working on it. And we came up with this logo, and we looked at it and said, "Oh, that's a nice logo." And the managing partner at the agency said, "Do you love the logo?" And I says, "Oh, that's right. I don't know. It looks nice. Do I love it? I'm not sure." He looked and says, "I don't love it either." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure I love it either. I mean, it's fine. It's okay." Anyway, that then evolved to, let's do something different. And the two of us decided, you know what? Let's have the athletes design it. And several people cautioned us, and they said, be careful, because if they don't design something that looks great, you're still going to have to use it. And we listened briefly to those people, and then completely dismissed what they said. And we thought, let's have the athletes do it. So we got athletes from 9 different states who have hosted previous games. We had a workshop down here, and in one weekend, they developed this beautiful logo. And if you go onto our website and click on logo, you can see a 4-minute video of how it came about. But what Daniel, what that proved, that instant, that weekend, what it proved to me is that if you give our athletes opportunity, encouragement, and support, they can do just about anything, whether it's on the sporting field, whether or not it's in an art studio. And for me, you talk about eye-opening and life-changing for me, that weekend was. And why? When I gave the speech the first day, the athletes were all very timid. They were afraid. Some of them said, I've never drawn anything before. I can't do a logo. By the end, not only were they helping each other, mentoring each other, we had this big camera, right? This big Hollywood camera, because it was done by a bunch of, they would say, can I film? And they were just filled with confidence, and their abilities came through. So it didn't take much. And I think that's the lesson we can all have, to encourage, people who are different in any way that are different. It doesn't take much to help support them.
Yeah, it's amazing that because of the sports that we're able to compete in, it's amazing because of Special Olympics, what we're able to do off the field. And once people first see us compete and then see what we're able to do, whether it's as an artist and designing the logo for the USA Games, or podcasting or blogging or whatever it is that we're doing off the field, it's amazing that when people just are able to see what we're able to do, then they truly can join our inclusion revolution and are able to accept us.
Yeah, exactly right.
So again, I want to remind our listeners, 2022USAGames.org, and they can click on logo to check out that video that you mentioned. And I believe also you in following you guys on social media, and I think you also on your website say that you guys have a few celebrity ambassadors that are involved in the games. Can you talk to us a little bit about who some of these celebrity ambassadors are, and about a little bit about what their involvement is?
Sure. Thank you. One of the things we thought about in the beginning of the games was how to shine the spotlight on Special Olympics and on the 2022 games. And we thought, obviously, we needed star power so we could get attention through podcasts like we're doing today, attention through media events, national TV, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were excited. We went out and we said, well, how can we best do that? And we said, let's go get some celebrities to help us, whether or not they're sports icons or Hollywood celebrities. So we went about that, and we put a huge focus behind it. And to be honest, I was surprised how easy it was to get so many people to say, sure, I would love to help Special Olympics. So we have, Chris Everett, who's won, I believe, 18 Grand Slams. We got Elena Delle Donne, MVP of the WNBA Finals. Ellen DeGeneres from the Ellen Show. Grant Hill, very, very popular and successful NBA player and now broadcaster, etc. Jimmy Kimmel, who for those of you who like late night TV. Lin-Manuel Miranda, my daughter's favorite person of all time, of Hamilton fame. Mark Cuban, from Shark Tank. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. Tiffany Haddish from Girls Trip. And we have 5 Academy Award winners. Our list of celebrities have won over 125 Grammys, Emmys, and Oscars. And so they're just, and they've been promoting us on social media. And we're slowly building up this drumbeat. So starting early next year, you'll see more and more from a bunch of our ambassadors who are going to go help promote the games. And we hope to have a bunch of them join us here in June of 2022 while we celebrate our athletes' accomplishments and achievements.
Awesome, man. Once again, those dates are June 5th through the 12th, 2022. So from the time that this episode releases, it's just 5 months away. And what people see in the background, whether it's on if they're watching the video on the back behind you or behind me, they see the phrase "shine as one." Can you tell us a little bit about what this phrase means, "shine as one," and how this phrase has become like a tagline, I guess, for these 23 USA Games?
So again, with our athletes, we sat around and we said, what would be, something that would be inspiring and would be something that would be lasting. And, we thought, okay, well, first of all, we're here in Florida, right? And we have the sun and we have shine. And then, we want to, as society, we really want to be, especially these days, you got everybody's, seems to be having different views on so many different things, and whether or not it's politics or whatever. And we thought, let's use the games as a unifying moment. And what a better way to do that than get a tagline such as "Let's shine." Let's put the spotlight on the athletes, whether that's the sun or an actual spotlight. Let's put it on the athletes, and then together as one, let's celebrate their achievements.
Awesome. So, as we right before we take another short break and then talk about athlete leadership and then some final thoughts as we wrap up in just a little bit. But what advice for all the athletes that, and I'm sure I think we'll pre-record in this episode in November, but this will be released in January. But I believe tomorrow, from the time that we'll record in this, I know Special Olympics Illinois will be announcing the all Illinois athletes that are going down, and I know some of those states have announced. So there's a lot of states that are announcing over these next few months the athletes that will be going to compete at the USA Games. So, what advice do you have for all the athletes that will be competing at these 2022 USA Games?
So I've got some obvious advice. First of all, we're so pleased that you're coming. We're so pleased that we're going to be able to host you. Continue to train hard and to work hard, and to whatever your goals are, whether or not the sporting goals or personal goals, to just go continue to persevere, especially through these times which are challenging. And then I like to say, come prepared to have some fun, because we are going to have fun. Whether or not it's opening ceremonies is going to be a great, we think, experience for the athletes to come into the large, the large stadium to cheering of tens of thousands of people. We're lucky enough through our partner. We have some great partners, which I haven't talked about, but one of them is Walt Disney World, and they're going to graciously host our athletes not once but twice at Walt Disney World. So on two separate occasions. So come prepared to have fun, and don't forget your sunscreen, because come June it's going to be sunny.
Awesome. So in addition to Walt Disney World as one of the partners, can you touch on, because I know, just like this podcast and just like all of our events and games, especially Olympics, if it wasn't for our partners, then we wouldn't be able to either compete, or like in the case of this podcast, we wouldn't be able to be behind the microphone. So the partners are really important for this movement. So can you talk a little bit more about some of the
So we, in order to do, we're going to be housing the athletes in Disney hotels, right? We're going to Disney parks. We've kind of tried to upgrade the experience. As I mentioned, we're also going to help provide scholarships for the athletes to come to the games. So we have two partners that we have a lot of partners, and if I named them all, I wanted to we'd be here well past our scheduled time. I want to highlight two of them. Jersey Mike's Subs. Jersey Mike's Subs is supporting the games. They're the presenting sponsor. They have given us the largest gift ever in the history of a Special Olympic USA Games. And thanks to their generosity, we're able to have 50% more athletes come than Seattle or prior games, 50% more. And it costs a lot once the athletes are here, all through the generosity of Jersey Mike's as our presenting sponsor. And our host partner, Walt Disney World, is providing a lot of the great services for the athletes while they're here. So those are our two key partners. Underneath that, we have 8 premium platinum partners who are, huge supporters of Special Olympics. And so without them, we couldn't create this wonderful experience. So we've got, I think at last count, we're over 30 partners. But Jersey Mike subs and Walt Disney get a special shout out. And if you want to see the rest of our partners, please go look at our website. But again, from the bottom of my heart, I just thank all of them, because with their generosity, we're able to do some really cool things for our athletes.
Awesome. Well, you'll be happy to know this past weekend we had a Leadership Academy, our athlete leadership conference down in at our Special Olympics Illinois headquarters. And when we were leaving, we had a boxed lunch, and the boxed lunch was from Jersey Mike's. So even before the games, we'll eat in lunch from Jersey Mike's.
They have great subs.
They do. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and take another short break. When we come back, we'll get into athlete leadership and some final thoughts as we wrap up our time. Because if it wasn't for our partners, we wouldn't be able to be behind the microphone. So you're listening to the Special Chronicles show. We're on the road to the 2022 USA Games. Our conversation continues with Joe after the break. And hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to hear a message from our partner. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives, and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And now we return to our conversation. This episode continues right now. And we're back. Our guest is the president and CEO of the 2022 USA Games, Joe, and you mentioned in the last segment that there's a lot of athlete involvement, and one of the athlete involvement you talked about in the last segment was on athletes designing the logo. So in addition to the logo, can you tell us a little bit more about the athlete leadership involvement of how athlete leaders are going to be involved?
Sure. And we've taken the definition of athlete leadership, which is an official program of Special Olympics, but we've made sure not only do we have the athlete leaders involved, but as many athletes as we can. So you talked about, and we talked about, the logo design and development. But what we've tried to do, and many prior games have said this, but we've really ingrained it into all of our planning, is to have athletes participating, whether or not it's on the board of directors of the games, whether or not it's the two athletes that are working here today on our staff, whether or not it's in anything we do. We have a couple things. We have the Athlete Input Council. So those are, I think right now, it's like 16 or 17 athletes. They meet and they get involved in planning of across the board, anything that we're doing. Daniel, funny story. The other, I guess it was about 2 months ago, where I was interviewing somebody to hire them. And it was somebody who worked for me, said, okay, Joe, I want this person. Can you interview them? I interviewed them. And I says, yes, I like that person. Proceed with the offer. Right? And you think me being the president, I say, proceed with the offer. They say, okay, Joe, we'll let you know how it works out. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, now the person has to be interviewed by the athletes. And if they say, okay, then we can hire. So that's how much we've gotten our athletes involved is really in many different aspects. One of the things we're doing, a big focus, was athletes as coaches and athletes as officials. And I think last count, we were close to 50 athlete officials and coaches during the game. So not only coming as participants, but coming in more leadership roles during the games. Something else we did with our venue development for those 20 sports, we have this whole team of people that are meeting, that meet weekly or monthly to design the venues, to figure out how the competitions are going to work. And in many of those sports, we have an athlete venue director who is participating in the design of those sports. Whether or not it's and many of those sports are very complex when you look at the number of athletes. Look at athletics. We're going to have over 500 athletes competing every day. So it's very, very complex, but we want the athletes involved. So end-to-end involvement is what we're trying to do with our athletes.
Awesome. And I want to touch on a couple of things that you said. One is how more athletes are involved in the games, and I think 50 years ago, where first Special Olympics was a organization, was a movement that was for us, but now 53 years later, it's now a movement that's with us, where we're able to lead alongside people like yourself, and it's I think it shows the mainstream community just how much we're able to lead. So like it's really exciting that you're getting athletes involved with every part of the games.
Yeah, because we can tell everybody, our mission statement is all about diversity and inclusion, and we can go out and say that, but you have to lead by example, and that's what we're trying to do, is lead by example and show, not say our athletes can do this, that, but show that they can do it, and say, look, this is the end result of getting different viewpoints, because otherwise you're getting just one viewpoint. And when you get athletes involved or partners involved or other people, you get different viewpoints. And traditionally, we went to the traditional people to get viewpoints, but not as much the athletes, or it would be in token assignments. And the one thing we wanted to make sure is we just weren't doing it to say we did it, but to show that we were really, really doing it. And sometimes that's hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't always easy because we're used to doing things a certain way. And our athletes would say, well, how about this? And I'd say, you know what? That's a good point. Hadn't thought of that. Yeah,
absolutely. And another thing you said about how you're going to have athletes as coaches and officials. One of the co-chair of our athlete leadership council in Special Olympics Illinois, along with myself, it's myself and then Eric Bauman, who he's down in Southern Illinois, but he's actually going to be an athlete coach for trying to remember. I think it's I believe it's flag football.
That's very cool. So that's what we want to do.
And it's the first time that he'll be an athlete as a coach. So is this the first time that at all national games that we'll be having athletes as coaches and athletes as officials?
No, I think it was done before, but it was done, again, with a very few amount of athletes, and we are trying to, triple, or actually, I think 500% more. Just trying to do more and more, and then in the next games we'll say, gee, in Orlando they only had 50. I think they had 10 in Seattle. They only had 50. We're going to do 100. And then I would hope the games after that would do 200. And then at some point, it'd be 50%, right? So you have to just keep setting stretch goals and just to keep raising the bar of excellence, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's neat how with each of these games, there was more and more athlete involvement, from whether it's athletes as coaches or officials, or involved with working for the games or designing the logo, or all those each as we grow, and each game, I think it's really powerful for people to see just how much as athletes we can do. touch on one more thing before we get to some final thoughts. As you know, our Special Olympics health programs I think Special Olympics is one of the largest health organizations for those of us with intellectual disabilities. So talk to us a little bit about how the health programs will be involved with these games.
Sure. So this has been a huge focus of ours. We have a partner of ours, Orlando Health, who's our medical team provider. We've been working with them. So we're going to offer 7 disciplines, and we've set some pretty aggressive goals. We want to do 12,000 health exams that week. And so we're investing in technology. We're working with the Disney industrial engineers to figure out how to get the lines, because people often go, when we did some workshops and we found that, people, coaches and et cetera, are reluctant to go because of the long lines or the fact it may take them 6 or 8 hours to get all the disciplines done. So we are working on making it a fun experience. We're working on it being efficient and it being productive and staffed by, I think last I looked, on any given day, we'll have 700 medical professionals there. And Daniel, I know we'll wrap it up in a minute, but one of the things we wanted to do is, it's one thing to tell people it's important to get health exams, but we want to create some incentives. So we'll have a lot of incentives for coaches and for the athletes to go get their health exams. And we're lucky enough to partner with a brand new partner of Special Olympics, Zappos. Zappos is an online shoe store, and they're a great partner. What a great company. You talk to them and they're like Jersey Mike's. They just talk about, we want to give for giving. And, they didn't ask for anything in return. They said, we want to give for giving. They have designed, you ready for this, Daniel? I think last I looked, now we have problems with the supply chain and everything. I think it's like 7 different shoes, maybe it's 6 different shoes. So if the athletes go through a certain number of exams, they will get a free pair of really nice sneakers. Awesome. And I'm going to get in trouble here. Hopefully, Daniel, nobody's looking, right? So yeah, can I show this? Yeah. This is one of the adaptive shoes that they're going to do here, and so it's a little baby one. Awesome. Maybe one of our young athletes, but you can see our logo on it. There's going to be including Crocs with the snap-on charms that you can put on it. All sorts of cool footwear, all donated, all available to the athletes. So we'd encourage all the athletes to go help ensure that they take care of themselves, because as I'm sure you know, Daniel, many of our athletes have a hard time getting to good health care, and we think this is a great opportunity to provide that service because we can.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's really impactful that we have these health programs. And for our listeners that just listen to the audio podcast, go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter Live, and you can see the shoe that Joe just showed up to the screen. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we'll get you some final thoughts as we wrap up. Because if you're watching the video, the video version of this podcast, and you are wondering how Joe and I are able to be connected virtually, and how we're able to have all these banners and the Special Chronicles logo up there and our names. If you're wondering how we're able to do this, it's because of the service with StreamYard. So we'll be back with the President and CEO to wrap up this episode after this final break right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Hey, friends, podcast listener friends. I'd like to take a brief moment to let you know about how awesome StreamYard is. StreamYard is the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. You see the link right below on the screen here, and also will be in the show notes in the description below. But all of us at Special Chronicles, we love StreamYard. I've got a coffee mug I'm drinking coffee out of. Got a t-shirt on. I've got a sweatshirt, this StreamYard Puddles plush duck, Puddles the duck, here in the studio, and just really love it. Makes really love StreamYard. It makes it easy to connect with guests. Just send guests the link to join StreamYard, and easily have a professional logo and banners and graphics, and it just makes it easy to pre-record, to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Really love StreamYard. It's helped to make the audio podcasts and the video versions of the audio podcasts that I've been doing for the past 13 years. It's helped to make the video versions up to the next level, to a more professional level, while also making it easy to live stream. So all of us at Special Chronicles love StreamYard. Once again, if you want to sign up with StreamYard, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard to sign up and get 10,000 credit with our referral link. I hope you all will sign up for StreamYard, and happy live streaming. And until then, sign up for StreamYard and get 10,000 credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. And now back to the show. And our guest is the president and CEO of the 2022 USA Games, Joe. And as we wrap up with this final segment of the program, share with us again the website and social media for how people can get involved if people want to be a volunteer or coach or
sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on today. I encourage you to go onto our website, 2022USAGames.org, which I believe you have up on the screen. But for those of you who are just on audio, 2022USAGames.org. I'd encourage you to first have some fun and go to our video section and look at some of the videos that we've got, especially the one on the logo creation. You'll see there's a place to volunteer or to learn about maybe how you could help the games. But right now, volunteers is probably our biggest challenge. We've got 22,000 volunteer shifts to fill because obviously we rely upon the generosity of people supporting us through volunteering to execute the games. So, but we're just happy to be able to provide the platform. I think the last number I saw, Daniel, was 6,032 athletes and coaches and additional delegates coming to Orlando, and in these challenging times with COVID and everything going on, we just think this will be a great coming out party come next summer, and we're just excited. I didn't mention we got some great venues down here. People know Central Florida is a great place for entertainment. We got some great sporting venues where we'll be hosting our athletes. So we're just excited. Go to our website, support us, but probably most important thing everybody can do, support your local athletes. Okay, so not the games. The games are great, but they're fine. That's why I'm here. But go out and support your local athletes in the local county competition, state competition. Give locally to your Special Olympic organization. The grassroots is where it's all about. We've got almost 1 million athletes in North America, so please go out and support them. And that's what the biggest thing you can do for me.
Awesome. And once again, if people want to find a local program, specialolympics.org, and then you can, I think, click on North America and then find your local U.S. program, specialolympics.org. And once again, the dates are June 5th through 12th, right?
June 5th through the 12th next year.
Awesome. And by the time people hear this, it'll be this year. Since this is released in January. Any advice? I know you mentioned advice to athletes coming to the 2022 USA Games, but any advice on that you have to over 6 million Special Olympics athletes across the globe to either compete at their local national games or just any advice to athletes like myself and the whole community?
First thing I'd like to do is congratulate the 6 million plus athletes for the fact that they were courageous enough to want to go try something different and participate in our sports, our leadership, and our education programs. So I think that's very exciting. I would just encourage the athletes. I know I talked to so many athletes, and they start in one sport and then they branch out to other sports. So just assume there are no borders, assume there are no boundaries, and the sky's the limit, and just keep pushing yourself and just enjoy and have fun in everything you do as it relates to Special Olympics.
Awesome. And before we get to the final question that I always include these conversations with, any final thoughts on your overall time today on the Special Chronicles show that you like to share with our listeners?
Well, I'm so impressed. I'm impressed by you, Daniel. This is the second time I've had a chance to talk. I'm just impressed by the professionalism, by your great questions, by the dialogue, and by the fact that you're offering to our athletes and to others, yet another vehicle, another place to go just to find out more, about this great mission, right? Because it's one thing to go read on a website, but that's not as interactive and as interesting as this might be. So I just want to thank you for your dedication and your time in support of Special Olympics.
Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully, as a Southern Tribal International Global Messenger, I haven't heard, but hopefully I'll be coming down to the USA Games, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet again in person, and So as we wrap up, I always, as the inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics. So to introduce this final question, we've got a bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
More divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And as you probably could tell from that bumper, the final question that I always include these conversations, these podcasts with is talking about inclusion. And so I'll ask you the same as well, and that is, what does inclusion mean to you?
Well, and it's interesting because that my definition has probably evolved over the years. But inclusion means, it means just opening, I think, our hearts and our minds to anybody who's different, whether or not it's intellectual differences, sexual orientation, color of your skin, religion. It's just, breaking down those traditional barriers that I've had, and just being more open-minded, and then just enjoying the gifts that everybody has to offer, and to understand that diversity of thought and diversity of actions, are what makes America great, which makes society great, and that's how, if we want to continue to become a great civilization, we just need to continue this focus. And it's not always easy, and it's not always done properly and right, but we got to learn from when we kind of make mistakes and just keep persevering.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. Hopefully we'll get a chance to meet up in person at the 2022 USA Games, June 5th through the 12th. And hopefully you all will go and click the link in the show notes below to get involved and check out some of the videos and that Joe mentioned on this episode. So once again, Joe, our guest has been Joe, the president and CEO of the upcoming 2022 USA Games for Special Olympics. It's been a joy having you on this program.
Thanks, Daniel.
And until then, you guys, specialchronicles.com for links for the show notes, to subscribe to this podcast everywhere where you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button, and so you don't miss new episodes that we have weekly. And specialchronicles.com for links to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, our newsletter. You can find all of that on specialchronicles.com. So until then, we'll see you next week right here on the Special Chronicles Show on specialchronicles.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit specialchronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.